if we wait a couple of minutes for those in the queue to just join, we'll launch in a few seconds. Okay, well, croeso a bona degesi. That's the end of my execrable Welsh. I just want to say welcome to everybody to this webinar. I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Clare, Dwight and David Stevens of Visit Wales, who we'll be hearing from in a minute, and also from Shirley Sin, who's the manager of UK and Ireland for the explosively fast-growing wholesaler G2, who specializes in Far Eastern markets. Robert Young, who's the sourcing manager at CIE being one of the longest established scheduled tour operators working out of the United States. They obviously do Ireland, as the name implies, but they have an extensive program throughout the British Isles. And I'm also delighted to be joined by Rees, who runs and is the business development person at Cambria at ASA, Cambria being the real bona fide Welsh tour operator. Okay, well, I'm really just going to hand over to Clare to take over your part of the session. I would just, before I do that, just say that this webinar is being done in conjunction with Visit Wales and in preparation for the Britain and Ireland marketplace, which takes place at the end of January, where we're very much looking forward to having over 120 UK inbound members and ETOA members being joined by 110 hosted by us in the United States. So it's going to be quite a powerful event, the one that we're having at the end of January. And if you've got any questions, and I would urge everybody to ask questions, it becomes more of a conversation. Please post them in the either the chat function or in the Q&A. But over to you, Clare.
Thanks very much, Tom. Prynhawn da, good afternoon, everybody. I'm just going to share my screen, so bear with me a second. So hopefully that's come up. Somebody can do a thumbs up so we know that we're there. Great. Okay, thank you. Great to have this opportunity this afternoon. And so first off, David and I wanted to take you through some research and insights before I take you through some of the main opportunities and why we expect inbound visitors to be interested in visiting Wales in 2023 and beyond. So I'm going to hand over to David to start by taking you through the core of the research.
Okay, thank you, Clare, and Prynhawn da, good afternoon, everybody. As Clare says, I'll just run quickly really through some of the main research statistics from International Passenger Survey and a few other useful reference points in terms of inbound markets and what they're requiring. So just turn initially to International Passenger Survey, and I think we're now getting a clearer picture of the recovery for inbound travel to the UK. So the IPS data was released yesterday for January to the August period. And this shows that things have picked up in each month positively from January to August 2022. And we're now getting closer to pre-pandemic 2019 volumes. So the trip volume in August 2022, they're just over 3.5 million. That's around 80% of the volume that we would have seen in June 2019. Spend has recovered more strongly than trip volume. So for the period January to August 2022, there's been £15.9 billion spent on trips to the UK, which is around 87% of the expenditure for the same period in 2019. So certainly on course to recover and a strengthening recovery over the last few months. Thanks, Clare, if you'd like to forward it on. We're able to look at things by purpose of trip, and there are some differences that seem to show a consistent pattern. So the recovery has been fastest relief for visits to friends and relatives, so that's the green line. with 1.27 million in August 2022, which is around 96% of 2019 levels. So pretty much a full recovery in visits to friends and relatives. Looking at inbound holidays, so that's the red line. These reached 1.6 million in August 2022, which is around 77% of the volume they were in 2019. So on course for a good recovery. Business travel, that's shown in black, that's been the slowest to recover, probably as we would expect, with different patterns of working. So 360,000 in August 2022, which is around 63% of the pre-pandemic level in 2019. Move forward on, thanks Claire. Looking at markets, so this has been quite interesting. The latest data for markets is for the period Jan to June 2022. But I think we're starting to see a consistent pattern across 2021 and 2022. It's the large mature markets in Europe and US that have very much led the recovery in inbound to the UK, both in 2021 and 2022. So the USA has generated the highest volume for the first 6 months of 2022, followed by France, Irish Republic, Germany and Spain. When you look at this compared to 2019, actually most of the top markets for inbound in the last 2 years were also the top markets for inbound prior to the pandemic. So we're seeing sort of a return of core markets really. The two exceptions that stand out a little bit at the moment, so the GCC, that's notable for higher level of trips and spend during the first 6 months of 2022, whilst perhaps not surprising, China sort of fallen down the ranking there in terms of volumes of trips in 2022 compared to pre-pandemic. Looking more specifically at Wales, there is some data available for 2021 and 2022, but the sample sizes tend to be a little bit small to draw any strong conclusions at the moment. But when we look at 2017 to 2019, it is these key markets that we're seeing recovery at a UK level that are still important for Wales. So Ireland in particular has historically provided a large source of visitors to Wales compared to the UK. But the USA, Germany, France, Netherlands, all part of the top 5 inbound markets for Wales historically. And as we're seeing, those are core markets that return to inbound UK travel. So the feeling is it's likely to be those markets, certainly over the next 2 years, that will continue to be the main priority for Wales in terms of volume and value of inbound visits. It continues to be, I mean, the question people keep asking me is when will we see recovery, full recovery, and what will 2023 look like? That's a difficult one to answer. One of the indicators we have at the moment for that is sort of flight bookings as recorded through forward keys. You might be familiar with this data, and this is being monitored closely by us and by Visit Britain. What it's showing at the moment is that flight bookings are currently running at around 80% of the level compared to November 2019. So there's still this sort of been a recovery, but it's sort of reached a bit of a plateau at the moment where volumes are sort of 20% down on what they were pre-pandemic. And it'll be interesting to see really in 2023 whether these booking levels sort of are maintained at that level or we see continued recovery on over the next 2 years. Clearly one of the big factors that will impact recovery is the economic situation. So whilst COVID appears to be a receding threat, the OECD are now forecasting low or zero growth in GDP in many of our inbound markets. You can see there in the left-hand graph, the green bars there, are a lot of those either in the negative or a little bit positive. Recent data from the European Commission also shows that economic sentiment in the EU has been falling pretty much throughout 2022 and is at low levels. Looking at the data more broadly from UNWTO, what they're indicating is that outbound tourism spending has been led by France, Germany, Belgium, Italy, the US, India and Saudi Arabia. So those markets that seem to be most buoyant at the moment, but clearly many of those will be seeing low levels of growth next year and high levels of inflation, as you can see from the graph on the right. So if this sort of pattern continues, there could be further recovery in inbound traffic volumes to the UK in 2023, but these economic headwinds could prevent a full recovery to 2019 levels. And we're likely to see sort of different levels of recovery from different markets. So again, it might be the US and the European markets that recover more strongly with a slower rate from business travel and perhaps visits from Asia. We did some research with Visit Britain earlier this year, which you might be familiar with, which was looking at sort of key decision drivers for holiday trips. And this provided information across 29 of the key inbound UK markets. The key thing, as you can see there at the top of the slide, that the research underlined the value and importance of value for money as a leading driver of holiday decisions. But I think it's important to note that it isn't just about low price when we look at value, it's also about the experience on offer at all budget levels. And people want value for their spend and not to compromise on key parts of the experience. So the research that we did with Visit Britain showed that relaxing, exploring, natural environments, the welcome for visitors, and opportunities to explore the destination, these are all leading drivers of holiday decisions at the moment. They tended to be consistent across most markets. There was some slight variation between countries, but they were sort of common themes. If you are interested in finding out a bit more, that report, I understand, is to be published on the Visit Britain site in the next couple of weeks, and that will have market level breakdowns, which will be useful. Other sources that I've looked at, so the Expedia Travel Value Index that was released last week, and that is a bit of research that they've done across a couple of years, looking at the main factors that influence holiday decisions. And what that was showing, that price and inflation are now the leading factors influencing bookings, whereas last year and the year before it was flexibility and cleanliness around the COVID situation. It's very much a sort of price-led market at the moment. But despite this price sensitivity, on a positive note, the research was suggesting that around half the people they surveyed were saying travel is now more important than it ever was before the pandemic. So there's certainly a strong desire to travel still. And research by Travel News shows that people have this sort of revitalized desire for connecting with nature and the outdoors, as well as travel that brings physical and mental health benefits. Some of the key trends which are interesting to look at, so making up for lost time with family and friends, slow forms of travel like cycling, a desire for soft adventure and new tailored experiences. All of these were sort of, to a certain extent, in existence pre-COVID, but some of them have been accelerated post-COVID. So I think there are opportunities there. And perhaps this common theme is this focus on regenerative travel. So that's not all just about the visitor, but also about the way they're traveling, and travelers being much more mindful of the impacts of their trips, both on the environment and the communities that they're visiting. So just putting you forward on one. Thanks, Claire.
It's having a moment.
That's okay.
What's happened? There we go.
So this, I won't go in detail through the slide, but it's a useful slide to go back to, I think. It basically looks more closely at the findings from that Visit Britain research, and it maps the sort of key drivers for holidays against key perceptual strengths for Britain. So the horizontal axis is how important the factor is in choosing a destination, and the vertical axis is how strongly Britain is associated with those factors. So the focus really is on the red highlighted areas, and these are areas where they're important consumer drivers and where potential visitors feel Britain has particular strengths. So it's around history, heritage, vibrant towns and cities, lots of experiences, opportunities to roam around different destinations. These are all sort of key holiday drivers and also seen as key strengths for Britain. You move on one, thanks, Claire. And then this sort of looks at it a little bit more through a Wales lens as well. So interestingly, the areas in green are really areas where perhaps the Britain perceptions aren't as strong, but where we think Wales has strengths. So this includes things like being seen as a relaxing destination, natural beauty, variety of food and drink, and also underpinned by good value and welcome. So when we are promoting Wales, it's these areas in green as well as the strengths for Britain in red that are probably the areas to focus a lot of our promotion and developing experiences around. So I think that's a quick canter through some of the research. Hopefully you found that useful.
Thanks, David. So I'm going to pick up and home in on the travel trade, which is really important for Wales to generate inbound tourism. And pre-COVID, we know that at least £35.8 million was generated for the Welsh economy in 2019 from a sample of around 850 domestic and international tour operators. And this is a summary from that annual travel trade research, which some of you kindly contributed to. And it shows a tracker group of 100 operators who significantly increased spend and bed nights, shown by the upward arrows, between 2010 and 2019. And ultimately, we really want to recover business back to that good base level. Earlier this year, we commissioned a mini travel trade research with a much smaller sample of 200 international tour operator contacts. And we know that for 2022, Wales will have lost out to some of the big hitter destinations like London and Edinburgh, but 2023 onwards looks better, with almost 60% of operators showing interest in developing or selling more Wales products. And hopefully things have perhaps moved on a little more from the spring this year. And whereas the summer months are the most popular, there's reasonable spread of business with opportunities for more tours and itineraries to be developed in the shoulder months. For programmes in 2022, this shows that there has been pretty good regional spread. North and South West Wales have proved the most popular, with fairly equal spread across the rest of Wales. But we think there are opportunities to further balance that, especially perhaps in areas like the southeast outside Cardiff. So just wanted to move on to a few opportunities and things to look forward to. Just to put it in context, we're following our visitor economy strategy, and you'll have a link to look at that, with a focus for Visit Wales and our industry to generate tourism that does good for our country. So these three S's underpin our strategic approach, and focused on extending the season, increasing spend and spread of visitors. We've grown the profile of Wales as a nation through attracting and supporting film and TV productions such as Sherlock, His Dark Materials and Disney Plus's Willow, and through our Cambria Wales Nation brand, which is showcasing Wales as a globally responsible nation. And whereas it probably wasn't necessarily the best thing from a footballing point of view, being drawn against England and the USA at Wales's first World Cup for 64 years has provided an unprecedented opportunity to showcase Wales as a distinct nation on a global stage. And the media spotlight and conversations have very much been about Wales as a nation, our people, culture, landscape and unique language. And we've worked really closely with Visit Britain, who've amplified a lot of the content and assets we developed to make the most of the opportunity internationally. We've used the heightened profile to run a partnership with Expedia, targeting international audiences, especially the US, across 14 weeks of activity. And through their ownership of Wrexham Football Club, one of the oldest football clubs in the world, Hollywood stars Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhenney and their documentary Welcome to Wrexham that ran in the summer has really showcased Wales and our unique Welsh landscape. And Wrexham itself became Wales's 7th city as a result of the Queen's Platinum Jubilee celebrations. Wales has also just featured on Condé Nast's global list of places to go in 2023, as well as on a list of 13 exciting UK destinations for 2023. And following on from other successful Wales in focused years, Wales in France 2023 will be a year of activity to celebrate and strengthen the historic ties between Wales and France across all sectors, including tourism. So I'll quickly just take you through some of our themes and new products, but you'll get more information on these and others in our follow-up. Our product development and marketing continues to focus on adventure, culture and landscape, which, as David has mentioned, really resonates for the kind of holiday experiences inbound visitors are after. In line with our strategy to extend visits into more seasons, we're promoting Wales all year round. And moving into 2023 and beyond, we're celebrating a year of trails in Wales, which will continue into 2024. Whether it's heritage or walking, literary or music, restaurant, distillery, there are many opportunities to present existing trails as well as new tours and itineraries using the theme and incorporate it into your own marketing. So the emphasis is really on all kinds of trails, and we're really going to showcase the diversity of experiences and the compactness of Wales. So the fact that, you know, in one day, you know, in the morning you could be up a mountain and in the afternoon viewing a Monet in the National Museum in Cardiff. You know, also linking castles to the coast path, dark skies to dolphin spotting and so on. And we'll have an industry guide out later this week with associated assets and the logo, which will be available to help give you more ideas for how you can become involved. Wales by Trails enables us to spotlight our national trails, including the Wales Coast Path, which continues to celebrate its 10th anniversary until May 2023, with a trade toolkit available on this and offers Dyke Path, as well as to highlight the Wales Way, our family of 3 national touring routes. And we'll be highlighting itineraries around our UNESCO World Heritage sites, including the Northwest Wales Slate Landscape, which became our 4th site last year. To finish, I just wanted to mention some new accommodation which has opened in the past year. This is just a sample, but we've got the Albion in Cardigan, and Cardigan has just become 3rd on the list of Time Out's UK best places to visit in 2023. The Parkgate Hotel, which opened in Cardiff with 170 bedrooms in a Grade 2 listed building next to the Principality Stadium. The Celtic Collection of Hotels, which expanded their tea brand, which especially targets groups, with a 100-bed hotel at Milford Waterfront. And the Mercure Newport, which opened in the spring with 135 rooms. And, you know, it really takes its vibe from the nearby Newport Transporter Bridge, where a new visitor centre and, you know, refurbishment work is underway. There's so much other product news, including the forthcoming Pendine Museum of Speed and a 42-bed eco hostel that will provide a sort of 4-sided product update as part of our follow-up to everybody. And also do visit our news pages of our website for more. And there are many ways of keeping in touch with us and finding out more. So sign up for our e-newsletters. So that's it from me for now. Diolch, thank you. I'll now hand you back to Tom and our other speakers.
Well, thank you so much, Claire, and thank you so much, David. That was a really great insight. I'm very aware that we've got 4 people here, 3 people here primed to talk. Robert, if I turn to you first, I'd just like to know what your experience is of selling Wales as a destination.
Well, thanks, Tom. Well, I mean, as you know, being our core product being Ireland and Britain, in particular Scotland, actually, we're huge fans of Celtic nations, and there's no shortage of fans of Wales within the company as well. So we've always had a focus on Wales. We used in the past to run a Welsh essentially mono destination tour, the Taste of Wales, The flights were in and out of London, so it wasn't strictly speaking only Welsh, but more or less it was Welsh with, if I'm right, 7 nights in Wales and touring North and South Wales. The frustrating thing about that tour really, though, was that whilst it was one of the tours with the best feedback from our customers who absolutely loved it, it was one that we struggled to sell in significant numbers. That was the strange sort of dichotomy about it, really. The people who went on it loved it, but it was difficult to sell. And that seems to be a theme, really, when it comes to Wales for us, that there is always a small minority of people for whom the country is immensely exciting and you know, offers great potential, but it's opening it up to the sort of you know, the more bread and butter type of tours that is the that's the challenge, perhaps. So as it is at the moment, we feature Wales on several of our tours, but more it's a question of dipping across the border. We've a couple of tours staying in Cardiff next year. One of those tours makes its way subsequently up the border and then has a very full-on day in North Wales before going back over the border to Chester, where it overnights. But I mean, like lots of companies during COVID, we trimmed our portfolio back somewhat and concentrating really very specifically on core business and the big hitters, as it were. And now that our business is growing and the numbers are going in the right direction, obviously we are looking again at product development. And Wales is definitely on the map for us to include, whether we go back to a Taste of Wales type product or whether we would do something which was a little bit more England and Wales, or maybe Ireland and Wales. That remains to be seen. But as I say, there's no shortage of enthusiasm for the country here at CIE Tours.
Sorry, I'm stuttering almost. I share with you your innate enthusiasm. I'm right in thinking, I mean, you're not, there are other tour operators out there who are running scheduled tours of the British Isles selling in the United States. And a lot of them will include Wales as an en route feature of their itineraries, where they're including Ireland as well as England and Scotland. And inevitably there's a sort of run through really from the Chester area through to Holyhead, and then from Fishguard through to Newport. And people do stop and they do occasionally stay. I mean, there are hotels in North Wales and they do exist in South Wales. I'm wondering what do you think could be done to persuade those operators to add an extra day?
Well, I don't personally. I think that yeah, I mean, there's no shortage really of hotels in the north, and in particularly in the south. I mean, we dealing in North America, we are limited somewhat because of our customers' expectation in terms of quality. I mean, we would struggle to sell anything that wasn't really 4-star. I mean, genuine 4-star. So adding overnights in other destinations in Wales, suddenly you find that the choice dwindles somewhat. I mean, I personally think that there's plenty to see and do to, you know, add an extra night on in one of the hotels in Cardiff, for example. That I don't see as being really an issue. What we would love to be able to do is to link North and South Wales together, and this is something you know, we've had in mind for many years, also pre-pandemic, to sort of see how we can really get that right. With our Taste of Wales, we had a heck of a long day, basically, going from the north down to the south. And what we would love to be able to do is work with a hotel in mid Wales of a sufficiently high standard to be able to stop there. And as you know, the number of 4-star hotels, you know, sort of between Cadaridris and the valleys is virtually zero. So that's what limits us very much when we look at a more Wales-centric program.
No, I can see that the ghost of the Corbett Arms Hotel in Towyn is stalking this conversation. Shirley, if you could just explain what G2 does, and what is your experience of selling Wales?
Sure. Well, firstly, thanks very much for having us here. a bit of background about us. G2 Travel is a global inbound tour operator. We handle a large volume of groups from the international markets. We have sales offices in the Far East in Asia, such as South Korea, Japan, China, Vietnam, Indonesia, Malaysia, and so on. We have clients from the North and South America as well, and a little bit from the mid-short haul markets, such as Europe and the Middle East. But overall, I'll say the largest chunk of our business would come from the long haul markets. In terms of selling Wales, I would like to firstly give credit to Visit Wales for the very good presentation just now, and for the very good travel trade toolkits on the website and the resources as well. These information help us a lot in gathering ideas and presenting them to the clients. In terms of our experience selling Wales, because our groups are usually the long haul, from the long haul markets, they normally would prefer to do a big, grand, best of Britain type of tour, which are classically 12, 14 days that goes around the UK, a little bit of Wales, a little bit of Ireland, a little bit of Scotland. And therefore, our biggest sellers for Wales would be more or less in Southwest, for example, Cardiff. In North Wales, for example, heritage products such as Conwy, Conwy Castle, Botany Gardens, and some of the lovely towns like Llangollen. Not too much in the middle of Wales, similar to what Robert was saying, that the hotel space is just not enough over there. And that kind of puts off the travel agents a little bit because they don't want to promote something that they can't really deliver. So in general, I will say for what we're doing so far, the products in Wales, the destinations that we are already selling are great. We are very happy doing business with the companies in those parts of Wales. And I think it's actually a very good feature for the Britain and Ireland tours, so that the clients would see a little of a different side, a special side of Britain, bringing some extra values to our UK and Ireland tours.
Well, thank you, Shirley. I think just to emphasize, you're moving groups in the hundreds of thousands at the moment. And if Wales could get a little bit of that, I think they'd be very happy. Aled, what is your position on this? What's your experience at the moment?
Well, Cambria started exactly 10 years ago today, actually. So the Cambria brand is 10 years old. And originally, it was B2C. We quickly moved Cambria to be a B2B travel trade company. We've been working alongside Clare and Visit Wales for many years. And I echo the comments, you know, even being first language Welsh speaker on the ground in Wales, we also find it, you know, these issues with regards to accommodation. We do work with them very closely. What we're finding recently, a lot of the hotels, I would say, are being bought up by certain groups. And that is a struggle. They tend not to want to work as much with the travel trade, but they're happy to put everything through a very large company starting with the word, well, the letter B. So what we are more focused on, obviously, and that's, I think, where we benefit, is we are very much more focused on the FIT side. We are able to find those unique properties, those unique experiences. We do run bespoke group tours, and the experience before COVID, we did have some scheduled departures, but again, on the smaller side. So we were able to work with the properties that wanted to work with the travel trade. So I think what's been said, I think, and COVID has brought things along where we are now needing not to just educate the end customer about the destination. We're having to re-educate a lot of people within the companies as well. So, you know, people that have moved on and now having to retrain new destination experts, let's say, that don't even, you know, have any idea about the country. So it is a tough time.
And then you just said that I'm clear in my head is that being not essentially is not the right word, but being primarily an FIT bespoke operator, it is possible to run groups requiring 10 to 15 rooms in
Yes.
central Wales. Your difficulty lies in having the capacity to have scheduled tours requiring 30 rooms. This is
Exactly.
the scale of hotel, and it's not a 30-room hotel you need. You need a room with the spare capacity for 30 rooms that can cope with a tour arriving, or cope, frankly, with a tour not arriving, because some of these scheduled tours do cancel. So it's got to be a hotel that can cope with a swinging capacity, I suppose, of about 30.
It's very, very difficult as a, let's say, a small brand within a big company. Angela Shanley is a very big company, obviously, but as a small brand and with maybe a travel trade suppliers that are not used to working with the large operators, let's say, to get, even for us to be able to get allocation is practically impossible.
That's a good. Claire, do you have a comment on this problem? I mean, this is not a new problem for Wales, but it's being eloquently expressed at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, I guess there's a few things that I think have come up there. I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've been working in a role with you know, travel trade and tourism in Wales for 20 years. So, and you know, it's been talked about for probably that length of time. I have to say, you know, in that time we've seen a huge amount of hotel development, and obviously, you know, I highlighted some of what's happening, and we have, you know, got some brands that are specifically looking at, you know, going after the group business, but you know, completely hear all of the, you know, challenges and frustrations, and you know, Robert, we've been talking for quite some time about, you know, particularly that Mid Wales issue. So, you know, I think, yeah, there aren't any absolute quick fixes, but certainly we're seeing, you know, a pipeline of more developments coming through. So some of it, I think, is about physical infrastructure, and, you know, people are seeing the opportunities that Wales presents to, you know, develop accommodation stock here. As Alid said, I think there is quite a bit of change going on in the industry here at the moment, and, you know, properties that are changing hands. Some of that is obviously presenting some issues, but I think, you know, some of that changeover hopefully in due course will settle, and that we'll see, you know, and I think, you know, opportunities like today's session, and hopefully on it are, you know, some of our suppliers in Wales who hopefully can see that, you know, there are opportunities through working with the travel trade, and you know, working together to educate them, I think is a key part of it, to have the industry, you know, really understand, you know, how it all works, especially where they have got, you know, sort of new staff on board, or new people on board.
Well, we've got lots of scope. I wanted to capture, Robert, I suppose my question to you, just to change tack a bit, because I don't want to concentrate on the negatives. Is there anything that Wales does really well that they could do more of?
Well, I mean, I love the update document that that I was given at World Travel Market, and we saw a little, we saw that on the screen before, earlier on. With that's a fabulous piece of kit. I mean, we're just coming into our sort of product planning phase now, really, for 2024. Well, I say we're coming into the sort of placing stage, really. We're, I suppose, towards the end of the actual planning stage, but we'll be coming into the 2025 products planning stage maybe in 6 months, and considering, you know, what things we might like to add to the program for that. And when it comes to attractions and you know, lunch stops, and it was lovely to see that Hay Castle, for example, is now open to the public again after all these years. That kind of stuff is just super useful for us when we're you know, either planning a tour from scratch, or when we're putting you know, finishing touches or making slight enhancements to existing tours. So we love that. I mean, Visit Wales are you know, a joy to work with, and I can't say, you know, enough good things about them. It's as I say, it's not for want of enthusiasm.
No, I wasn't. Can I just say you answered the question that I didn't mean beautifully. What I was actually was implying was, there anything in Wales that they do that they should do more of, like sort of, you know, more Barra Breath, less Camandaganai or something. I don't know how you wish to pitch it, but I mean, you know, there must be some salient features of Wales that do really well. And
Well, our customers are certainly interested in, I suppose, you know, fairly sort of standard fare, history, castles, good food, that kind of stuff. But they're also very, very interested, I think, to sum it up in one word, in authenticity. They really, really like authenticity, and the Welsh slate mining area all up around Llanberis, and the Slate Museum at Llanberis has in the past scored disproportionately highly with our customers, and we collate feedback from all our customers about every little aspect of the tour. And yeah, I mean, the Slate Museum at Llanberis was always one of the, you know, was a prize winner, and I think it's the authenticity of it rather than it's, you know, that it's wow factor, you know, for want of a better word. And that is, for me, I mean, you know, there's lots and lots of places in Wales which touch people in that way, because they're very relatable, really, and you feel like you're experiencing history rather than looking at it in a sort of glass topped box.
Right, Shirley, what is there anything in particular about Wales that stands out that your I suppose your clients would recognise and that they do really well, that they should do more of? We'll get on to the things they should do less of in a minute, but what do you think they should do more of is the question.
I think the heritage product definitely stands out.
Yeah.
Cardiff definitely stands out, and there's a reason why the heritage products and Cardiff's have been some of the best sellers for us. And I think if these attractions and these kind of products continue keeping up with what they have been doing, that would be great. What would be really helpful as well is the food and drinks and film location aspect, I think, because everyone going on holiday, they expect to enjoy the food and drinks, the local food and drinks as well. At the moment, I think that we can do a little bit more to educate our markets about what Wales can offer on that aspect. And in terms of film locations, you have got some really great ones in the portfolio, and I think we just need to work together to amplify it a little bit more, because when we talk about these long haul, especially Far East markets, if we can pinpoint them to something that they can associate with or they have heard about, it will work a lot better. And also I wanted to say as well, actually what Robert mentioned was very similar to what I thought as well. The marketing toolkits, everything is really good. If we can, again, amplify and let everybody know and let everybody see it, that would be amazing. And for example, if you are going to do a sales trip in the Far East, we would be very happy to connect you with our sales officers. Or if you're going to organize a fam trip, that could be a great way to impress our potential clients as well.
Thank you, Shirley. Aled, what do you find, what works and what doesn't, I suppose, is the question, if I could spin it to you.
Yeah, it's been said already, but I think, you know, what again, what Claire was saying earlier about and what Robert mentioned, we're different, you know, we're the people are different. So I think what really sells Wales well is meeting the locals, is having that beer in the pub in the middle of nowhere, you know, on a cold Tuesday night, that sort of thing, where, and you know, the choir just walks in and starts singing. That kind of experience is what sells Wales, and I think that's where what we're seeing now, a lot more requests on those unique experiences. You know, experiential has been a thing that's been up and coming and been talked about for the last few years, but what I've noticed since COVID, there's a lot more of those kind of experiences. Food, what Shirley was mentioning there with regards to, you know, yes, going down to Pembrokeshire and catching the things that you're going to eat that evening is amazing, and it's an amazing experience for the FIT traveler especially. And what we've seen with maybe group travel is just meeting the locals, let's say for a lunch or an evening, or having a home hosted dinner. That kind of thing can leave something in your head that you treasure forever.
No, indeed. Right. Just to switch it slightly more, I mean, what can we do? I mean, is there anything, I'm trying to think, we've concentrated the positives. I suppose what do you need in Wales to generate a single country tour of Wales? I mean, we're assuming that, let's put aside 2 points. One is an international, long-haul international airport. Ignore that one, then I'll have to arrive somewhere else. And we'll ignore also the issue of four-star hotels south of the Gludders and north of the valleys. Beyond those 2 points, is there anything that you think really would help? I suppose it's just a very quick answer, if you could think of one. I'll start with you, Alan, because the others will be thinking. What can you think of one thing that could be done? Do we need to build Posada-style hotels in Wales, for instance? I don't know.
I mean, those bits that happen in mid Wales, you know, I always sell with mid Wales that there's nothing there, and that's part of the charm. So, but you know, yes, of course, we're going to need higher quality accommodation. But what I would always try and sell Wales as is that it's, and you can't get away that you can't get into Wales from every country in the world. You have to go via another entry point. Or so what I always try and sell, even if it's Heathrow and an open jaw out of Manchester, it's that London plus, let's say. So if somebody is coming to the UK, you know, forget about maybe the UK wide tour, but let's do a London plus Wales. Let's do a Southwest plus Wales. Let's do a Northwest plus Wales. Let's do an Ireland and Wales. So there are those combinations. And I think, yes, you will get those individuals that want to come to Wales because their surname is Evans, Rees, Jones, whatever. And you will spend 2-3 weeks with them finding gravestones and, you know, old farmhouses. But then you will, let's say Wales is that place where, and we have to admit, it may not be that first visit either, but it's always there as that option of saying, well, if you loved Scotland, if you loved Ireland, Wales should be your next destination. Robert,
I know time is limited, so
no. Well, I mean, it's wishful thinking, really, Tom. I mean, it's exposure. It's what we essentially need. I think a lot of our American customers are a little vague as to what Wales even is. Really, they're not necessarily aware that Wales is another country. I mean, to be honest, they're a little hazy over what Britain is, really, I think. You know, if truth be told. So yeah, I mean, and exposure, the easiest, it's a bit facile to say, but you know, big Netflix exposure on Wales, for example, very specifically, can make an enormous difference. And we've seen it time and time again in Scotland. You know, from Highlander days to Game of Thrones to the Crown, all of these featuring Scotland in all its glory, has been like a sort of, you know, like a paid for advertisement for the country. So as I say, sorry, it's a bit of a facile answer and not one that I know can be conjured up quickly, but awareness.
Shirley, what's your take on this?
Well, apart from echoing what Alan and Robert has mentioned, I think the emphasis to remind people how dynamic and the variety of products that Wales can offer would be one of the most important thing. And I don't know, perhaps we can get Gareth Bale as well.
I'm sure he's up for it.
That will probably help. But yeah, I think Wales is a very, very dynamic destination with a lot of different things to offer, but we do need to work together to amplify the message, I think.
And I'm being corrected by someone on the question and answers saying that there are over 160 global destinations served by KLM from Cardiff Airport. So I stand corrected. I won't either amplify or reduce that statement. Okay, so we've covered a lot of the ground today. I would just encourage everyone to look at the Britain and Ireland Marketplace or BIM landing page on the ETOA website. The date is the end of January, and we are going to have both Robert Young and Shirley Sin, and I hope Aled in attendance at BIM, either themselves or someone very similar, as they would say, in force. We hope to have over 240 tables of buyers. It'll be one, not just our biggest UK event, it'll be one of our biggest events with a huge concentration there. So everyone is most welcome. I hope we've been able to give you some indication of what the travel trade needs. We freely admit that hotels tend not, 4-star hotels tend not to be built for the leisure market. We tend to piggyback on the demand for these products from business enterprises and catering to business visitors, and then we move in when they're in short supply and are able to use some of the space. But Wales does suffer, as we pointed out at the beginning, middle and now end, from a slight shortage of accommodation. Maybe this is the time that we start looking at putting the roofs on some of those roofless buildings called castles and turning them into façades, Clare. This might be a move for the Welsh government. A lot of them could do with a lick of paint. Anyway, with that thought, I'm going to not detain you anymore. Thank you very much, Robert. Thank you very much, Shirley. Thank you very much, Aled. Thank you so much, Claire and David. Ladies and gentlemen, everything you've heard today is going to be recorded. With that, I will say goodbye. Goodbye.
Bye. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.